All right, guys, morning. Let's get started. David Wood. So I'm the Mitsubishi DSG G out of Oregon. So I'll be going through this update for you, the Mitsubishi R454B update. And then Aaron's going to be answering questions in the chat. So Aaron Larson, our tech service manager. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and type those in the chat. And I'll kind of definitely pause before I go to the next section. And just along the way, if there's more questions or we need to clarify something, okay? So let's get to it right here. So all information provided in this training is deemed accurate at this time of this training and is subject to change. This is what I like to say is this is what we know so far. It seems like, if I say it changes daily, that wouldn't be true, but definitely there's changes weekly on the product, on the website, on the tech support side. We're learning more as we go, coming across, issues and stuff. And I'll kind of share that, issues, that stuff that's coming up that I'm seeing because I'm on phone support this week. So it's fresh in my mind and I have a list of what I'm seeing out there, calls from you guys on the product. So again, changing as we go. So just a reminder, technical training videos, right? If you have access to the Gensco customer website, which you should, or someone in your company does. Let me change here. Sorry, guys. Let me get my laser pointer going. There we go. So yeah, under technical, you have the technical training videos. So that's where we record these videos that we do here at Gensco. So that's an option to go back and see something. If you weren't able to catch it live, then you can go back and watch those training videos. So that's one area. And then the other would be the training right here under the training tab, Dealer Learning Center. And those ones are just like e-learning training courses. So not videos necessarily, but it looks like there is one right here, webinar. Well, some of them are. So again, just two areas of training that we offer Gensco customer. Because again, there's a lot of training opportunities. We get that asked a lot. Where we want training, we need training. Well, there's a lot of self-training options here that people need to take advantage of because it doesn't always have to be in person. Speaking of that, so this is Mitsubishi's tech show. This is a good podcast that Chris has been pushing a lot. He listens to Chris Stein. He listens to a lot of these. Turned me on to them, so I'm starting to listen to them also. So again, a good lot of drive time, and you need to listen to something besides tunes. Listen to these podcasts. So a lot of good info. Another option where we've always talked about MyLink Drive and the technical trainings that they have there. So again, these are more like just quick little videos, not necessarily, they are trainings, but they're short. I think most of them are, between 2 and 5 minutes. So just remember that. And then here's another option by Mitsubishi. If you do our trainings, if you've been to our training center for our certified trainings, you had to create this LMS account. And it's a learning management account that gives you access to all these trainings right here from Mitsubishi. And those are, again, recorded or trainings. Some are webinars, etc. So again, just wanted to share that so you guys are aware of all the trainings out there. And then Mitsubishi Pro, right? We have two websites, mylinkdrive.com and then mitsubishipro.com. And I just went there again this morning. It seems like this is updated a lot, twice a week. So this is going to be the go-to website definitely for our 454B product. But what I'm seeing more is they have a link now in Mitsubishi Pro to link to MyLink Drive. I know MyLink Drive is full. I heard rumor, maybe Aaron would correct me if I'm wrong. I think they could transition out of MyLink Drive. This is going to be the main site, and it may link back to MyLink Drive. But again, this it's getting updated. I noticed they don't have a lot of accessories in here yet and stuff. So work in progress, like I say. I'll
Yeah,
go
you're
to
correct on that, David.
what's that? Go ahead, Aaron.
You're correct on that. They will be all of the new product information will be on Mitsubishi Pro, and they're currently in the middle of slowly updating it to make it a little more like my link drive was, a little easier to navigate and faster to navigate. So we'll be seeing changes over the next several weeks to a couple months as they update this. And I noticed they've got the Use M Pro as a phone app. That's brand new. That wasn't on there the other day when I was on it. So they're updating constantly.
Yeah, yeah, good to know. I noticed, yeah, they added the commercial product on there with pictures on the very first page as you scroll down. So yeah, it's being updated pretty heavy. So keep going back there. And this is what, yeah, because again, this is old screenshot stuff right here. But I found, I mean, I didn't use the search function as much on my link drive, but I found myself on this website so far until I guess I get used to it. I'm using search more. That's what I noticed. And this is pretty not colorful, not much going on here. This is going to get improved when you pick a particular unit, and then here's your documentation over here. Submittals, engineering, install, etc. So that will change. It'll look better. And like I say, I'll go into it a bit, maybe toward the end, just poke around in there and show you some changes on the site. So, but yeah, let's get into the first portion here. And again, like I say, this has been trimmed down to take some of the more of the features and of each unit, kind of like the submittal already shows. So rather than talk about what's in the submittal, which you can get from the website, we kind of trimmed this up a bit and made it just more focused on technical and installation, etc. So again, additional refrigerant charge or R454B. If you're looking at this, right, we're just talking about the one-to-one systems right here. So again, pipe length here. So up to 25 feet, no additional charges required. And if you're exceeding that 25 feet, you're going to have some type of additional charge. Now, what's changed? Now, you notice that these models right here, the FX06 through 12, we used to do, it was 108, it was an ounce, so many ounces per 5 feet is what they used to do, right? So now they're doing it, listing it as 0.22 ounce per foot. But if you do the math, it's basically the same amount. The difference is, if you did per 5 feet, 0.22 times 5 feet is 1.10 ounces per 5 feet. So it's basically the same, but now they're listing it per foot. So just make note of that. Certain units you're going to have, depending on the model, like we're going to show down here, the charge is good for up to 50 feet. So up for anything 0 to 50, no additional charges required. And if you're exceeding that 50 feet, you're going to have some type of additional charge, and then you're going to use the multiplier 0.22 per foot. And that's on the 15, the 18, and the 24. So again, this is just examples of the model, some of the models. You're going to have to know that based on install manual, what you're installing. So again, that's just looking at the one-to-one, right? Changes. So let's look at the ported units. On the ported units, what they did is the units come factory charged for the full piping amount. So no additional charges required on certain models. I wouldn't say all the models, so you're going to have to check. But this is what the specifications look like. But if you look right here, here's our max. So this, the MXZ2D Delta 20. So that's the max piping length is 164 feet. This unit is charged for 164 feet. And so on. These models down here are good for 230, 262, etc. So that's how you read that chart. And what they're showing right here, factory charge amount, they listed this. It's going to have the footage in there. They have, or pounds. They have it in kilograms right now. But what we're just showing is they've added the additional charge into the unit, so you don't have to. It's chargeless systems, right? Is what we're calling that. So on some of the units. Still, a lot of the rules still apply. Do not exceed 82 feet of line set per indoor unit. So do not pull the charge if you are under 82 feet, right? So we don't remove if you're less than that max piping length, just like before. So the only thing that's changed here is they're including the additional mount in the unit now. So ported. And now here we're a smart multi. So again, what's changed here, it's the same, but if you look, the multipliers have changed. It used to be 0.21 on the quarter and 0.55 on the 3/8 if you're on anything but the 60. So the multipliers changed, and then what I've noticed here is the factory charge in the units now is less than it used to be. So as you do your calculations right here, your 1/4 inch total, your 3/8 total, and then you get to your total capacity, what you're noticing here is you're gonna have to add more refrigerant, is what I see. The additional amount is more because the factory charge is less in these units. So that's the only thing that has changed on that. So still do it the same way, you know, install manual has this calculation. Our Mitsubishi tech guides we put out, or the Diamond System Builder, highly recommended anyway when you're dealing with the smart multis. And I'll stress that coming up when we get to some more of this information, that even all of these need to be built. The smart multis, you have to use the DSP because it's going to help you with your footage area required for those indoor installing those indoor units, the ducted units and stuff. So you'll see that coming up. And again, the short pipe disclaimer for our product. So again, it's talking about pipe. It doesn't provide a minimum length. However, indoor units connected with piping lengths less than 16 feet for the M&P series and 25 feet for the P series of R454B could produce intermittent noises during system operations. So again, just to prevent any type of refrigeration noises, then I would meet these requirements. So please be aware, important information when installing and locating the indoor units within the conditioned space. So yeah, noise, right? Noise related issues. Piping specifications. So again, here's the term chargeless systems. 12 to 30 BTU comes with max charge. So since this chart, just giving you an example of what I was talking about, you know, no change versus change. And you can see if you look at these models, here's our PUZ models right here. And if you look at the max charge, what they did, the red here is what they're pointing to, that the max charge has increased on these units. And what it has done is, so the factory charge, so the footage before was 70 feet of piping. Anything above that, you have to add additional charge. Well, now we're good for 100. That's the changes they made here. 100 feet, 100 feet, 165. That's what they're showing here on these units. So again, you notice it's not all models. You have to know your model. Okay, I was just looking at the chat there. So short piping disclaimer. Let me look. For R410 systems. Yeah, it was 16 feet for the R410. That's always been the rule there. But P series, yeah, 25 on the R50 or R454B. Can't talk this morning. So again, that's how you're just using that chart to see. This is giving you an overall of what's changed. So again, here's the ported lineup, right? The MXZ ported units, where all your piping pipes back to the unit, outdoor unit, right? Non-branch box type. So standard right here. So what's changed is the D, the generation, right? We were C. Now these are going D with we'll break the N, right, is our voltage. L is the refrigerant, which is 454B on these. So that's what it looks like, then breaking down that nomenclature on these. New generation of port unit is D. We have added units right here, right? The 4D30 and the 5D36. Here's your H2I. L is the new designation for R454B, like I said. So hyperheats right here, designation NLHZ. Standards, NL. Now what's changed also, so here we have this optional muffler. So when installing a MFZ unit on an SUZ as an optional muffler should be installed. So when you're doing this scenario right here, this is the floor unit, the MFZ, and then this is the SUZ Universal Outdoor Unit. This is an optional muffler. It doesn't come with the equipment. Here's the part number. So this one here, this part number is for the 3/8 muffler. This part number here is for the 1/2 inch muffler. Muffler is installed on the gas line and reduces refrigerant pulsation noise during heating mode. Muffler is purchased separately. So you get everything here applies. You get all the pieces here. The only thing it does not come with is the tape. So again, this is being installed. I'll show you a picture coming up where it's installed. So muffler installation, and then you tape it, right? And we don't want no moisture getting in, mixing with our copper and condensation. So new muffler option on the SLZ unit. Only recommended on the MXZ 2D20 NO heat pump with an SLZ connection for this. Helps reduce that pulsation in heating mode. Does not come with any units. You'll see that's not true. It comes with a unit in the next slide, but meaning it's not coming with this MXZ right here. So contents, muffler, coverings, cover, like I say, parts do you provide the tape, like I said before. So here's the outdoor unit, and you're probably not going to have room to put it between the outdoor unit and the wall. So in the vertical portion is where they're putting that there. Flared connections. So line set, right? It's already flared on that usually. If not, then I mean you're flaring. So on each end of that. So that's how it's going to be installed in that situation. Factory included muffler on these particular models. On the Smart Multi 36 and 48 non-hyperheat units will come with a muffler. This muffler will connect to the gas line between the ball valve and the line set. Because inside the unit, as you guys know, right, you have room to make that connection right to the service valve. So be sure to connect the muffler, otherwise abnormal vibration or noise will occur. Talking about the stop valve is closed, how to do the process right out of the install manual is what it's showing here. Probably has instructions with the muffler also. So again, that's what you're doing there on that. It looks like it comes with an this joint pipe right here, this turn, it's coming with that piece also. You may use it, you may not. So again, that's the difference on the muffler. So again, let me back up. Optional, MFZ, SUZ, optional muffler should be installed. That's how they put that. On the SLZ, on that MXZ multi-zone unit, right at 2D20, they want that installed. And then with the Smart Multis, these non-hyper, these two models, it's included. Okay. Comfort app. So again, Kumo's gone, right? Dead. This is the new app. We still call it Kumo. There's still pictures on the website. You go to MyLink Drive and actually the new website, and I still see pictures of Kumo. So they need to update that. But again, this is our new app, and these particular units have the Wi-Fi modules built into them, is what we're showing here. So these particular wall units here, one-way cassette floor unit. Now that's as of now. Could more units come with this? Possibly. But currently this is what I know about it. Talking about the refrigerant leak sensors. So it's a good snapshot right here of what to expect if they have a sensor, if it's built in. We get quite a few questions on these, you know, do the units, which one have the sensors, where are they located, etc. So again, here's a good screenshot about it. So the MSZ-EX is just not available. The MFZ, that's the floor unit built in. Tells you if the sensor is functional in a one-to-one system or when it's functional, right, is what it's saying here in these notes. MLZ built in, a sensor is built in for the SM units, but does not work in a one-to-one situation. So again, it's based on the outdoor unit. If the outdoor unit's looking for that sensor, then it's in use, and we'll be looking at that. Otherwise, it will not, and that's what it's talking about here, based on outdoor unit. SEZ, so SEZ, that's a 4-way cassette. A sensor is built in for the smart multi connection, but does not work in the one-to-one systems. And again, that's because of the total refrigerant charge of the outdoor unit is what's determining that. SEZ, built-in sensor is functional in a one-to-one system, right? The ducted units, it's going to be functional. SVZ air handler built-in sensor is functional in a one-to-one system. So that's just kind of looking at the M series right there. P series, PKA and PCA units, it's not available in a one-to-one. PLA, built-in sensors built in for the smart multi connection, but does not work in a one-to-one system. And then here's your ducted, right? The PEAD, PEAD, PVA, and the IntelliHeat coil. So it's functional in a one-to-one system. So again, these are already pre-installed in most cases. When we get to the branch block systems, it's a little bit different. And we'll talk about that coming up. So any questions on any of that, guys, before I transition to the next section here? Looks like Aaron's got you covered. Okay. Let's go with so proper installation changes and practices is what we're going to talk about here. So nameplate changes and documentation. So again, this was looking at an outdoor unit here, MUZFX. You're going to have your silver sticker with your nomenclature on it. Contains the same information as the model, serial, electrical requirements, refrigerant type amount. It's going to include the warnings of the new refrigerants, lightly flammable nature. So there's your 454 refrigerant warning, flammability, A2L, etc. So that's what you're going to see now on the outdoor units. Indoor unit over here, and you're going to see there's your information on that. Now, location of where you're going to see that 454B is it could be different, and I'll show you coming up where they're going to put that notice. But what they listed here on it's changed a little bit. The serial number, we'll talk about that too. You notice the serial numbers are unique now to the specific model. And it's, if I remember right, it's 14 characters numbers now. So longer serial number, but unique to the particular model. Before, what they used to do, one serial number could go to multiple models. That's how they used to do it. So nameplate changes documentation again. So yeah, here, so that's the MLZ, right? The one-way cassette, and up in here on the chassis of the units where they're going to have that A2L refrigerant, safety labeling there, handling. Here's an outdoor unit data tag. Factory charge is listed down here. Outdoor reference label, yeah, refrigerant amount. Most of our units, used to they had this label, but no one ever fills that information in. I think it's required to have that more so than ever. It's required to have that information filled in here. Plus, it helps us, right? Obviously, it's nice to know if you're doing a repair on the system, someone put the amount of the total charge listed somewhere. And then on the indoor unit, on the flare connections right there, those are called the snap tags, and the red there is designating the 454B refrigerant is what they have on those. So just identifying that. And then, yeah, nameplate changes and documentation. So this is where, this stuff here is just basic information, but important because like I was saying before, what I'm seeing on the support line is I've already had, I think there's been 3 cases I know of mixing equipment. So between the 454 and the 410 equipment. So again, knowing the labeling, the coloring of this labels, so everybody, is on board and knows this, because when I went to Gensco customer, picked the outdoor unit, you know, when you pick a smart multi outdoor unit, it flags you for the branch box. So the right equipment is picked as far as in the order. Now, the process when it's pulled in the warehouse and then delivered to your team, and then where it goes from there with your team. Maybe you have multiple orders on that job or, you know, being delivered from Gensco, and maybe the equipment gets mixed up there. And then when it gets sent out to the job site, I would, you know, maybe do some training on that process and make sure everybody's on page that's handling that equipment and understands this labeling system. So you're not getting out there on site and the equipment's not starting and running, and you find out that you have a branch box that's R410 on a 454B smart multi outdoor unit. So you see how that happens, right? So I mean, everybody involved needs to be, I mean, the guy in the warehouse at your guys' you know, business, putting the job together and sending it out the door from the installer, et cetera. Everybody needs to be on the same page on this stuff. It's gonna happen. We're in a transition, you know, from one refrigerant to the next. We have a mix of equipment out there. Right now, it's really tough until we get that 410 equipment, you know, gone and it's out of the way. And then we're you know, or R454B, it's not going to be as bad. But right now, it's happening. So again, figure one, label half colored green, depends on the unit here, right? This is an outdoor unit, so full green on this particular model. Label green with a border on this particular one right there. I can't see the model. I don't know what model that is based on that label. I can't see, it's kind of blurred on my end, but again, it's green, right? The key is green. So there's an outdoor unit smart multi, it's green on the edges. So nameplate changes in documentation. So service reference number and carton label. Moving away from using that service reference number, which for parts ordering and stuff like that, that was key for us to know that. We would, model wouldn't matter as much. We wanted service reference. Well, they're making it easy for us now. So, so yeah, consistent carton labeling for all products, simplified scanning and identification, and unique serial number, like I was talking about before. So I did notice, so on the packaging of the equipment, I did see a serial number that doesn't list the full 14 characters and numbers. I did see a portion of the label that shows like 9. There's been some confusion on that. So make sure you're getting the 14 numbers, right? Letters, number combination. That's the true serial. Again, going back to compatibility. Indoor unit combination air control. If the refrigerant type of the indoor unit, some outdoor units do not match, the system will not start up. So basically, like I was saying, I mean, and there's a no-go. There's no way around it. Or if you can't mix that equipment. Well, and the other part of it is putting R410 and R454 equipment. That's been happening. So FYI. It doesn't run good. Operational problems, running hot. So again, that's MUZ, PUZ, SUZ, one-to-one scenario, and then here's your smart multi-units right here. So again, just showing you it's got to be, they're not compatible with the other refrigerant. Indoor combination air control. If the refrigerant type of the indoor unit, branch box, and outdoor unit do not match, the system will not start. Two slides to tell you that. So, okay, unit compatibility and the DSB changes here. So again, actually, I'm going to do, the training again on the DSB is needed, because if you haven't been in there for a while with the 454B changes, there's been a lot of changes in here, and they added. And what I've been seeing too, this page right here, a lot of people don't maybe click through it real quick, but this is pretty much when you open up DSB, this is what you get right, right in your face. You got to make sure you select design build here. I've had guys hit the wrong region and pick non-UL units. It totally messes up your compatibilities. You'll find units that don't work with other units when that did happen in the past. And again, it's because they're on the wrong, they're non-UL selected. I would select both on your generation. This defaults to product, or I think it's product number, I can't remember, but it doesn't select model number. So if you want to see the model, make sure you make that change there. And then refrigerant, what I'm selecting is I'm doing both. Get guys calling where they're not seeing the new equipment because this is not checked. So you want both of those checked so you can see all the equipment. So those are important changes. Once you get past this, then you can find all your models and it's been working fine, but it's just that portion that's been causing some problems for some people. And then as you're going through unit compatibility and the DSB changes, this is what it's flagging you now here. So this is looking, as you build that smart multi-system, it's going to ask you location. And it'll ask you, then you select where it's at, the location, and it does this on the indoor units also, if you have ducted indoors and stuff. So again, when we get to the next slides coming up and we're talking about the requirements for the square footage based on the ducted units, you could do the whole process by the Diamond System Builder. It flags you along the way for the proper square footage for these units to be installed. So that's one of the tools I would use to make sure that these are being designed correctly and following the requirements. There's another option coming up, and I'll wait till I get to that to explain that more. But again, yeah, all the smart multi-systems going forward and have been in the past should be using Diamond System Builder. So minimum mounting height requirements here. This is what's kind of getting into the changes here. So the wall mounted unit, they're showing greater than 6 feet off the floor. Ceiling suspended type unit, that would be like the PCA type unit, which is not a real common unit, but if you're using that particular unit, then that's what they're showing right here. So 8.2, greater than 8.2. Same thing on your cassettes. So that could be a 4-way cassette. It could be the MLZ 1-way cassette. So again, 8.2 feet from above the floor to ceiling. And then here's your concealed ducted units, like your PEAD. So that's the requirements that they're requiring now, height requirements to prevent that, the refrigerant settling at those low levels. So ventilation, A2L refrigerant for units above the living space must comply with the ASHRAE guidelines. May require additional connection to the exterior. May require additional opening in the attic or basement. So again, what they're showing right here is indoor unit needs to be placed 8.2 feet or higher. We just looked at that, right, in this scenario. So let's consider that, maybe a PEAD unit, 1-to-1 setup right here. So from the floor to the unit, is it 8.2 feet or higher? Same as current. And then here's the grills on the return and supply side need to be placed 7.3 feet or higher. So meaning, yeah, no floor registers or sidewall, etc. So again, return and supply need to be placed 7.3 feet or higher. So we're not, if we have a refrigerant leak, we're not pulling it back into the ducting, dispersing it throughout the home. And that's where we get into these requirements here. So minimum room air requirement. So we talk about there's terms they use, AMIN, which is your minimum area required, and then MMAX, which is your maximum charge in that outdoor unit. That unit will be allowed for that minimum area required. So it's pretty easy. I mean, after you look at this 5 to 10 times, do it 5 to 10 times. It makes more sense. But if you're just looking at this for the first time, there's kind of some confusions, but it's not that bad. So again, this is for or for 1-to-1 and multi-zone applications, except the air handler. When you get to the air handler, that's where the difference is. So refer to the room volume restriction table out of the installation manual. So yeah, you're gonna have to read the install manual on these until you get the hang of them and know. These limitations pertain to the sensing and mitigation of the refrigerant loss. That's why we have to do this. So again, refer to the outdoor unit install manual and multi-positional air handler manuals for these tables. What I would do is I would go to the SVZ install manual, and they have a worksheet in there, which I'm going to show you coming up next. And that 2-page worksheet I would have on every job. And you'll see what I mean when I show it to you. Because it's either going to do a worksheet on a piece of paper, or you're going to use the DSB on each one of these jobs. And then you know ahead of time what your requirements are. So, but let's look at this. So the mounting height of indoor units shall be 5.9 feet or more from the floor up to 7.5 feet is recommended. We're putting these units usually wall mount type units anyway, right? We're putting them closer to the ceiling, but this is kind of looking at, this is a floor unit they're talking about right here is what they're showing. So the unit shall be installed in rooms exceeding the minimum area, a room area. So that's the AMIN, determined by total refrigerant amount. So what they're looking at here is this is a 10 by 10 room. So to the square footage right here, foot squared, 10 by 10, that's 100 square feet. So I go down to 102. Let's just overestimate here. And then I look and it says, okay, my system has to have 5.8 pounds, 5 pounds, 8 ounces or less in this scenario. So if you went to that outdoor model and look, you'll probably find, let's see if I have it here. It's going to be less than that. So in fact, you look at that total system charge in that and make sure that applies. And if it does, then you're good for that installation. As you go down and the room gets smaller, right? If you try to put it in a smaller room, then down in this area, let's go to like maybe a 33 square foot room, which is really small, right? It's like a closet. You're only allowed, that system can only have 1 pound, 12 ounces in it. Meaning you can't put that unit in a 33 square foot room. So that's what we're looking at there, right? And it makes sense. I mean, the smaller the room you put in, because the mitigation of the refrigerant leaking in that room, right? So that's what they're looking at, the amount of refrigerant based on the square size of that room. So that's the 1-to-1 and multi-zone. Basement application, so we get to the smart multi. So area requirements. When installing an indoor unit in the lowest space of a building, ensure that the refrigerant does not accumulate. Calculate the M max. That's the maximum amount of refrigerant upon the total area of that floor. Refer to the outdoor unit install manual for these tables. So again, when installing indoor units in the lowest floor of the basement, and here's the particular models, and based on your square footage, this is how much that unit can hold. So again, you're going to be on the smart multis. Most of them are going to be in this 14 pound range to 25. So you're going to be and you need to be installing these in the minimum 215 to 431 square feet area is where it's going to be. So that's going to be pretty common on these. So yeah, each system will have a chart found in the outdoor service manual to determine if the system can be installed. You got to measure that room, know the square footage. And the example is 10 by 10 right here. So 10 by 10 square footage right here, it would say this unit can only, the maximum amount of refrigerant for this particular system can only be 7 pounds in this scenario. I think what I would do, here's a tip I think on this. You should be using the DSB anyway. And if you did build this system and know your piping, estimate your piping distances, you would know your total charge. And once you know that first, then you would know where you're going to fit on this chart. That's what I saw. I can't remember. I saw a video on that somewhere where they were saying, and maybe it was in the install manual. They said, calculate your charge amount first and then work from there. And then So if the max charge is exceeded, then you may need to provide a 1-to-1 system or break the systems up. add some transfer grills, etc. We're gonna get into that. There's some options you can do, you know, if this unit has to go in this room, we have to increase the size of this room somehow, so we can put transfer grills and draw area from another room, which is allowing us to use that square footage into the total. Because if we can increase that square footage from 100 and get it up to 269 square feet, because we can draw in this basement, this is a bedroom, and we have the living room we can draw from, and we can get up to 269 square feet or 323, then we're allowed 21 pounds of charge in that system. See how that works? So that's what we're trying to do. Minimum floor and conditioned area, space requirements. So for safe, acceptable installation, requirements must be met to ensure in the event of a refrigerant leak, vapors do not collect and create hazard concentration levels. These requirements are in relation to the following categories, which we talked about: area of conditioned space, area the indoor unit is installed in, so the AMIN, area minimum requirements, install height of the indoor unit, and they're measuring that from the floor to the bottom of the air handler. Picture what we're talking about. It's an example that's coming up. SVZ upflow configuration, opening conditions and connected rooms and natural ventilation, and then ducting and damper configuration. So all requirements for this space. So again, yeah, each system will have a chart found in the outdoor service manual to determine a system can be installed, you know, in that area. So conditioned space versus indoor units, installed space. So conditioned space is a space with a supply grill and return grill. Indoor unit installed space, the installation space does not have a supply grill and return grill. So that's considered unconditioned, right? It's not heated or cooled. It's, you know, crawl space, attic, what have you, unconditioned space. Unit installed in a closet with no supply and return grill. That's considered unconditioned space. It's in the garage and no supply or return grills. Parameters that meet condition space, installed area. Okay, we already covered that. So install pass-through grills is what we're going to talk about, right? If it's in that closet, an example's coming up, we'll kind of expand on that. Rooms on the same floor. This was brought up too. What about, let's go back right here. What if this in the basement, if this is an SVZ air handler, and then they have stairs that go up to the living room? Can you count the living room? It's in the install manual. I had to look it up and found it. You can't count the stairs and the living room. So that doesn't count. So you got to stick with the room, downstairs, where the unit's located. You can't, because the stairs are open to the upstairs living room. That's not a transfer that they're allowing. So that's what they mean, rooms on the same floor. Okay, so let's look at this. So SVZ minimum area required. So example, SVZ is installed in a closet with no return or supply grill. Total space is 15 square feet, and the unit is installed 3 feet above the ground. So floor to bottom of unit is 3 feet. Refer to flow chart in the install manual to determine if this current application is acceptable. So here's the layout. Would be 15 square feet, right? Solid door on it. Let's say no louvered door. That'd be an option, right? You could put a louvered door on there. And then if that had a louvered door, then it would be opened up to this square footage down here. That's the goal. Here's the requirements right here. So not installed in a conditioned space, SVZ installed 3 feet from the ground. And they have the dreaded flow chart that everybody loves, but that's what you would follow right here. Is the indoor unit installed room, is it a conditioned space, right? No. And then we go over here, and this is tough to read what the heck they're asking right here, right? So basically, they're asking from the bottom of the unit, from the floor to the bottom of the unit, is it greater than 7 feet 2 inches, let's just say? No. okay, is from the bottom of the unit, or from the floor to the bottom of the unit greater than 3 feet, let's call it 4 inches. No, because remember, we're at 3 feet. So what we have to use is case C. So that's what we're determining what case we can use, A, B, C, or D. That brings us to this chart right here. The goal is you want to be in case D. Case D gives us the biggest square footage in charge. In this scenario, so here's our area minimum footage in parentheses, right? So 161, or sorry, 15, my bad, 15 square feet. We come over, we're on case C. That's this line right here. They're kind of off on that chart, but it comes down here and basically says 15 square feet coming across, and the charge we're allowed would be 3 pounds is what we're allowed on this particular system right here. Based on that unit being installed in a 15 square foot room with no transfer grills, anything, right? Type of scenario. So that's what we would be up against. So per the chart, the maximum charge for a 15 square foot unconditioned space is 3 pounds. If a louver pass-through grill is added for the closet, the space now can be considered a conditioned space. That's what I was talking about, right? Louvered grills, or louvered door or transfer grills. We'll show that coming up here. By adding those, we can allow this other extra square footage in the calculation, which would give us a total of 579 square feet now instead of 15. So that's what we just talked about here. Since we did that, we're allowing to use these in our calculation. And how we can do that is right here, installing the pass-through grills. There's a couple ways to do it. If you, cutting a grill into a door is not going to be fun, right? Solid wood door, what have you. That'd be a mess. What I would do is you can undercut the door. They talk about if it's a 30-inch door and you cut it up 1 inch, you can make that this bottom requirement right here. So let's talk about the top one first. So above the 4 foot 11-inch level, we would need, based on this calculation, from the floor an opening of greater than 11 square feet. So for this example, 6 by 4 would give us 24 square inches. 24 is greater than 11, so that would be acceptable if we put that above 4 foot 11, which I would put it up here, right? Rather than cut into the door. And then below the floor, pass-through be installed below 11.8 inches from the floor, and at least 50% of the opening has to be below the 7.8 inches. So, right, they would want that pretty much split between that. So an opening of greater than 22. So example, 10 by 6 would give us 60. 60 is greater than 22 and we'd be good to go. Or that's what that red line is. I mean, you can consider that undercutting the door. So if we do that, what it does, right? So it changed our square footage basically right down here, right? Since we did all that and added the transfer grills, we're allowed 579 on the square footage. So if we look right here, here's our square footage right here. And then what it does is we're on the case D. So you have to go back to this chart and use case D line. And then when you do that, which is this line, you'll find out if it's off the chart, meaning we can have a system that has more than 33 pounds of refrigerant. I know there was a lot there. See some chatting going on. So everybody understand that. I mean, that process, you're going to have to do it, like I said, 5-10 times and get that process down.
Hey, David.
Yes.
One of the things that we've heard is some people saying, well, this is, why do we have to do all of this? Some of the competition out there isn't doing all of this. Well, the reason is that Mitsubishi has gone through and said, hey, if we can give these different options, then it makes our equipment easier to install. We can utilize it in more applications and make it fit the code much easier, whereas other companies are just like, well, here's what you can do. See you later. And if it doesn't fit your application, sorry. So Mitsubishi's actually gone through and done a bunch of testing to make it much more of a flexible product. And that's why we have the flow chart and all of these different charts.
Yep.
And Billy asked, does the SVZ system also have the same height restriction for ductwork? For example, the return has to be higher than 7.2 feet. No, it does not. And it has to get into the UL listings and a whole bunch of information there. But the answer is no, it does not fit the same. Only the PEAD and SEZ have that restriction.
Okay. Yeah, this, like I say, this one here is probably brings up the most questions, right? So let me go. Here is the form I was talking about. So this worksheet, I found it in the install manual. And again, this is something, a 2-page document I would print up, because there's 2 ways to go about this. This should be done before the installer shouldn't be calling tech support and asking about these requirements while they're on the job. This, I mean, when this job is sold, you're out there with the customer, you know the placement of all the system. I'm talking smart multi and the equipment used. It should be designed in the DSB. And then the installer should know this or get a copy. You can do a PDF print of the DSB, you know, the system requirements and everything, piping, etc. Or this worksheet needs to be done. Everybody needs to understand how to do this worksheet, and this is a calculation for the minimum area required. I haven't gone through it and tried to fill it out yet. I just found it the other day. So your team should be able to go through this, and everybody should be aware of this, and they should be getting a copy, because back here on this page, it tells you what zone, room, area. So it's a total calculation for you that the installer would know where this equipment's going and what the requirements are, and do I need to cut in grills or etc. Because again, by the time they're calling support, no one's going to read the install manual when they're on the job doing the installation. You know, or don't really, I mean, the job needs to be installed, right? They want to keep working. They don't want to sit down and read anything. And do you blame them? So again, I think the DSB or this calculation sheet should go out with the equipment to the installer, and they should understand that, you know, what's going on with this. So when zone dampers are used, they must configure such that they will open fully during the refrigerant leak. So talking about, right, if you're any type of zoning on the system, pre-existing zone dampers that do not meet this requirement, they need to be permanently opened, fully disabled, right? We can't have, when it has a refrigerant leak and we need what's going to happen, we have some more information coming up on what the system does, but we go high-speed fan for ventilating the room in case of a refrigerant leak. And if we have closed dampers, that's not going to ventilate the room, right? So that's what they're getting at right here. Manual dampers must not be completely closed. Balancing is acceptable. Closing the dampers can reduce conditioned space area beyond the limits. Vent registers, grills, covers must not completely obstruct airflow from any vent. And yeah, this is all in the install manual too, all these talking about the dampers and everything. And so blocked vent can reduce the conditioned space area beyond intended acceptable limits, right? So just all requirements on that. Worksheet, like I said, page 58, 59, SVZ install manual. So guys, that's pretty much, I mean, that's probably I'm gonna just go back again here, just one more look at this, because this seems to be the biggest thing right here, is using this particular, you know, chart going through this scenario right here. But again, it's not that bad, just knowing your square footage area where the system's installed. And then using, I mean, this is the chart you have. It's not that difficult of a chart. So based on square footage, this is just telling you the system charge amount for that particular system based on the square footage. So the goal is wherever you're putting the system in, you want to have a decent amount of square footage where that system's installed, that ducted unit. Because it gives us the capability of having on a smart multi, like I said, we're between 17 and 28 pounds of refrigerant. It's pretty common on those systems. So. Okay, I'm gonna move on from there. Let me see if I have any more notes here. Let me look. Let me see what's next section here. Oh, we'll talk about that coming up. Yeah, maybe back to the piping area, talking about back when I started the unit. I noticed too on the newer, the 454 units, I've noticed more of the units are using 1/4 inch liquid line. Then in the past, we used to have 3/8 a lot more, 3/8 half, or 3/8 5/8, etc. But just be aware, some of the units in the past that you think, wait, these used to be 3/8 5/8, they're actually 1/4 5/8 now. So just be aware. I've had some questions on that, on the bigger tonnages. I think right around the 3-ton mark, 1-to-1s is where that's coming up. And the guys were questioning, man, it seems like a small liquid line for feeding refrigerant, to the particular indoor unit. And they're worried about capacity loss. I was told, I mean, the engineers at Mitsubishi have this worked out. So I'm sure they wouldn't let that product go out the door if they thought the liquid line was too small. So it's engineered, it's producing what they want it to. So it is what it is. Until they put a bulletin out there and say the liquid line should be 3/8. Just kidding. Okay, let's move on. Refrigerant sensor label. So again, wall units, MSZ, FX, and the GX in particular. So need for refrigerant sensor depends on if the unit is connected to a smart multi-system. Refrigerant sensor shall be mounted on site. Again, we're talking about smart multi right here. Sensor is included in the package of the branch box. There's some confusion, like where are the sensors? With the smart multi, you have to have a branch box. In the branch box, that's where your sensors are located. They're in there packaged with the branch box. If you get a 3-port branch box, you're getting 3 sensors. If you get a 5-port branch box, you're getting 5 sensors. To ensure the sensor is connected, notice is attached to the unit. Warning, if power is turned on without the sensor, the outdoor unit will be forced into refrigerant recovery mode. This is the label they're supposed to be putting on the units. I've had a report, I think I did hear one report, they got one of these, I think the GX is what I did here, and it didn't have this label on it. So that can happen. But again, as you become familiar with it, you'll know that, hey, if I have a GX unit, there's no label, and I'm putting it on a smart multi, I should have a sensor on it, right? So again, learning curve. So once we get some experience installing this, it's going to be fine. It's just right now unknown product. If you don't know, right, we're creatures of habit, right? When it's something new, we have 2 choices. We're going to learn by experience by doing it, or we're going to have to start reading the install manual. So I think at this point, we're going to have to read the install manual on this stuff and understand it until we become familiar with it. Even on our end, we're learning it as we go too. So again, this yellow label, if you read on it, what it says, for system with a branch box, the refrigerant sensor shall be installed to the indoor unit before turning on the breaker. The refrigerant sensor is located inside the branch box or can be ordered separately. Gives you a part number. Detailed assembly method, refer to the install manual. This is kind of just a quick little picture of it, but we have some more information on how to install it coming up. So they're trying, right, to notify you everything they can about, hey, refrigerant sensor, here's how to install it, etc. So here's how to install the sensor on these particular units. So this is what the sensor looks like. Found in the branch box packaging. Follow install service manual to remove the panel, get access for installing the refrigerant sensor. So here is the area where the sensor goes. The harness is already there on the particular unit, so you just have to plug the sensor in like they show right here. and that's it. So, and then pop it in place. I think we have some more pictures. Yeah, we do. So here's it, it's popped into place and installed. And then here's the latch tab to remove it. So again, installation of sensor required on smart multi units, not required on the prototype units. So again, it's based on the outdoor unit, like we said before. Yeah, I think we had that coming up, Brett, so audible. If I remember right, well, we'll wait till we get to that. So again, let me go back a couple slides here. So sensor installation on that particular unit there. So again, just bringing up here line set protection. So local code may require this. I think you guys have probably come across this before, right? Striker plates, right, to protect the line set within 1.5 inch edge of the framing member. So again, just listing some products there for that if that's what you need to do, code requires. Refrigerant sensors. Again, what they show right here, there'll be 3 types of sensors. But 14 types of service parts due to the connector type and the wire length. So again, depending on what unit it is, here's the models, right? This particular MFZ, MLZ, MSC, etc. These models would use this particular sensor model if you have to get a replacement one or need one for some reason. SVZ, PVA, the ducted units right here. This is the particular model of the sensor, and then the IntelliHeat coil PAA right down here. So that's the sensor. Again, here's a good snapshot, right? Factory installed sensors. So if you want to snap a picture of this and save this, because it's hard to find information like this here where it's all in one place. So, you know, MSZ installation on site, operational use, right? I just told you 3 sensors with this is a 3-port branch box. Notice the different model numbers on those. So, right, 454B branch boxes were a pack LMKA 30. The older branch boxes are a pack MKA. So 3 and a 5 sensors come with the branch box. If you have these units here in red, MFZ, PED, SEZ, PVA, SVZ, PAA coil. So installation, it's built in, works in all applications on those. Your MLZ, PLA, SLZ right here, built in. So it works in the smart multi and it does not work in the one-to-one. So again, the outdoor unit is determining if it's going to look at that sensor and use it or not. No sensor needed on those particular units there. Yeah, A2L red color is for the refrigerant sensor used for all the installs. Universal outdoor unit. So looking at a SUZ scenario, right? The standard or hyper refrigerant leak detection when using the SUZ universal outdoor unit. And if you have these particular units on it, then sensors built in, yes or no, and detection required for SUZ connection. So based on the indoor unit, right? So what you're using there, detection required, yes or no. Again, right down here, SVZ, built-in sensor, and if it's required on a smart multi connection, right? Smart multi outdoor unit. So factory installed sensors, ported type and multi-zone systems, ported type multi-zone zone. So MXE ported type multi-zone systems will ignore units without sensors and report leakage from units that have sensors. refrigerant sensor replacement. Example is a PEED, right? A ducted PEED unit. Remove the control box, disconnect the refrigerant sensor connector, remove the screw, remove the sensor, and remove the holder. So this is what it looks like on that ducted particular unit right there. There's an option to disable the refrigerant sensor. PLA and SLZ cassette. So the reasons why you could do that, reduce the risk of system outages due to false positives, meaning cleaners, sprays, etc. at startup. Refrigerant connection will not reach flammable range based on the large floor space. And then you refer to the install manual about and the table, and it tells you, for example, a P and S series 4-way cassette unit, SW5-3 from off to on, it will disable that sensor. So yeah, compare total charge to the room where the unit's going to be installed. And if it meets that requirements where you don't need the sensor and you want to disable it, then you can do that. To me, I would probably just leave the sensors active, not go through and try to guess, okay, we don't need to use this one because it is in a larger square footage area. And we do need to use this one, etc. So probably just easier just to go across the board and say, all right, we're just going to leave them all active. So when disabling the refrigerant sensor of the indoor unit, again, right here, talking about the minimum square foot area where that system's installed. Like I was saying, this is kind of the sweet spot where we're going to be. I would say maybe a little bit more down here to 26, 29. So if, again, this unit's installed on these particular models. So kind of getting into the detection on how the sensors work and stuff. So leak detection 1-to-1 is what we're talking about right here. 454B is detected. Error code will be displayed on the PAR 42 controller and make an audible noise. So there's the noise, Brett, what you're asking. So it's coming from the controller. Error code will blink at the indoor unit, and what you're going to get is left lamp blinks 3 times and the right lamp is on for 3 seconds. That's what the unit's going to do. That's my understanding, unless Aaron knows something different, but the sensors don't make the noise, right? As far as I know.
That's my understanding as well. It's only the PAR 42 that'll make the audible noise.
Okay, that's what we know as of now. So sequence of operation, indoor unit fan will operate at high speed to displace the air inside the room, preventing refrigerant accumulating at the floor. Outdoor fan and compressor stop. Service required, refer to service manual for the procedural steps after that. It steps you, I think we might have some of that in here too. It steps you through the process when something's detected and what's happened and when to power the unit off also. Because if it's in its, it's trying to displace the air inside the room and it's running high fan, you don't want to just shut the unit off and disrupt that, right? We want to ventilate the home and the rooms. And so the unit's going to run high fan. And when that's done with that process, I don't remember how many minutes it is. I want to say 5 is my guess, give or take, but maybe it comes up here later in the presentation. And then once the outdoor unit shuts down, then stops and you're allowed to shut it down. Yeah, depending on, let's see, beeping noise. Yeah, the beeping noise I see a note at the controller, 65 decibels is what that PAR 42 controller is going to beep. Sensor can fail. They kind of say this if the sensor, it may or may not be reusable. So, I mean, I'd say this, if it does detect something and you take care of the problem and ventilate it and the sensor is working again and does still work, then I would probably just reuse the sensor. It depends on the concentration level, like it says. So if there's sensors not being used, like they come with the branch box, a good idea would be if you're not, some of the units may already come with them, right? And you have extra sensors, I would leave them at the branch box on site for that customer in case they do have a problem. Then you have spare sensors there. Leak detection, ported units, right? Now we're talking the MXZ ported outdoor units. Air code will display as an LED, blinks on the outdoor unit. Air code will display on the port 42 controller and make an audible noise. Air code will blink at the indoor unit. 3-time left lamp blinks 3 times, right lamp is on for 3 seconds. Sequence of operations the same. So no difference there. Here's a list of air codes. So on the Smart Multi or one of the controllers, you can get 4 numbers, right? A 1521, you could get a 1522 or 5558. And on some of the other controllers, or if it's 1-to-1, you may get the letters, right? We just get a letter number combination like on the P series, like a P8, P6, whatever. So you might get FL, but it's the same code. 1521 at the outdoor, and you go inside and the controller's displaying an FL, that's the same code. Refrigerant leak. So talking about the indoor unit, and then so okay, here's the process. So when this error occurs, both the alarm is applicable to the room and the supervisor mode alarm beep. That's coming up next here. So the system will close the shutoff valves and perform refrigerant recovery. So talking about Smart Multi, because in the new Smart Multi outdoor units, we have shutoff electrically controlled shutoff valves in the outdoor unit on the vapor and liquid lines. And what the unit does when it detects a refrigerant leak, it's going to go into pump down mode and recover that refrigerant and then shut those valves and contain it in the outdoor unit. A little bit more information coming up on that. So that's what it's doing. When this error occurs, it ventilates the room. When this error occurs, do not turn the power off until the fan in the outdoor unit has stopped. That's what I was talking about, right? You want to let that finish out its ventilation. 1522, refrigerant leak, refrigerants or refrigerant sensor error is what they're talking about here. So you would check that particular sensor and then that particular unit and sensor. When this error occurs, both the alarm, same thing, system will recover. So it does the same process there. And then 5558 here, refrigerant leakage or refrigerant sensor trouble. When a refrigerant sensor error, the refrigerant leakage occurs, it is displayed on the non-applicable indoor unit. So those are your choices there on what you're going to see for error codes. I think that's the only 3 I remember seeing. That's pretty much what you're going to get.
David, we've seen a couple with the Smart Multi when they've mixed heads come up as 6600s as well.
Oh,
failure to communicate.
Okay, 6600s on mixed match equipment like I think that was a R454B outdoor and a 410 branch box, right?
I believe so. I think that's what that one was. But we
Okay.
have seen the 6600 error code as well.
Okay.
And that's just one of those things we're learning as we go along, right?
Yep. Yeah, what that code says, if you look at I'm looking at the for the Smart Multi, that error code, they define it as duplex addressing error. So again, if 6600, that's like, okay, what direction do I go on that? Duplex addressing error. You'd think you'd check addressing of your units, right? Well, basically, when in a new install, if it's a new install, you check everything, addressing, dip settings. I'd start looking at, your models of your equipment now. Could we have mix match equipment because we're in that transition, like I was saying. So versus that's the direction you go. If it's a new install has never run, we're looking at install related issues and then equipment matching and making sure we're correct. If it's a system that's been running 1 to 2 years, we can probably take those out of the equation and go a different direction. So error codes, unit operation, Smart Multi. Let's see, air codes, and the unit address display the outdoor unit and EMA controller. So yeah, it's pretty common on the Smart Multi. What you'll get is an error code like this, 1521, then it flashes to the address of the unit that's having the issue. So if it's an outdoor unit, it would do issue, it'd say 1521 and then flash to 51. Because our addressing structure, the outdoor unit should start at 51. And then from there, you know, our branch box, we address at 1. And then based on what port that unit's connected to, right? A port, B port, C port, it auto addresses, and then A port is address 1, B port is address 2, C port is address 3. So that's how you figure out if I got address 3 as an issue and I don't know what address 3 is, you go to the branch box and say, okay, what unit's on port C? I know that's address 3 and that's my focus for that unit. So that's how you can kind of figure it out that way too. So air code 1521, 1522, or 5558. So air code will display on the part 42 and make that noise we talked about. This is new here. So yeah, to make that noise stop, you can depress the EOS button on that particular unit. So that's the emergency operation switch. If you guys are familiar with that on those wall units, so we can put that in test mode, right? We use that for emergency operation of cooling or heating. So that will silence that alarm. Sequence of operation, outdoor unit switches to cooling operation. Liquid side shut off valve closes, right? This is basically like we're doing pump down. Same thing you do in a pump down mode, which is what we're doing, but it's doing it automatically. All indoor units go into high fan speed. Outdoor performs refrigerant recovery operation. Gas side valve will shut when it gets down to, the note I have on that is it'll run down to 22 PSI on the low side. And then it's going to shut that, the gas side valve, because we don't want to, if we're leaking, we don't want to go down below that because we don't want to suck air into the system, right? If we pump it down and there's a leak, then we go down to 0, we're pulling air in the system. Mix it in with that refrigerant, and then we just lost all that charge we just pumped down into the outdoor unit if we did it that way. So it's going down to 22 PSI. Compressor stops, and then at that point we can power the system off. Talks about go to the service manual, you know, for the process if you need to go, you know, read on that process. Let's see if I have any more notes on that. Let's see, normal pump down operation is prohibited in the event of a refrigerant leak because there is no low pressure sensor and the refrigerant leak point could cause air into the system. So yeah, if you have a refrigerant leak in the system and you're trying to do pump down yourself, it's not going to happen, is what it sounds like. So yeah, the Smart Multi, where they changed the control board layout. And what they did is this is more common to our City Multi product here, how they did the dip switch changes here, which are a lot better to look at. 4 banks of 10 versus maybe 10 different switch banks of various different switches on there. It's kind of an eyesore to look at and confusing. So this is way easier layout, and your address dials right here. So change there, and then they added the USB port, which is kind of nice, right? We had that on the commercial product for firmware updates and data collection and other things. So we have that capability here now too. Meaning, it's probably going to, I haven't read into it enough to know, but my guess is the board's going to store data like the commercial product. So if you don't have maintenance tool connected to this, but there's a problem or an error, we might be able to retrieve some data and then put that into the maintenance tool program and see the data. So fan motor port connections over here, which that's pretty much where they were before. I don't know. I don't see no different there. Shut off valve. Here's the liquid and vapor valves in the outdoor unit to do the pump, recovery, right? An alarm. So that's where they're powered at, the connections on that board. So. The lower port for the fan motor change from, oh, okay, wow. We changed colors on the ports or on the fan motor connectors. from white to blue. There you go. Built-in alarm. There's I lost my pointer here. So built-in alarm in the PAR 42 controllers. That's why that's a recommended controller for this. Message, notify, and air code that the refrigerant has leaked. Display of the what unit number is detecting the refrigerant leak, and then a supervisor mode. If the sensor of indoor unit B detects refrigerant leak, the MA remote controller installed in the controlled room will display the refrigerant address or MNet address of the indoor unit, which means you do not have to go to each room to check the display of any other MA remote controllers unless it is controlled. It's controlled unit also detects a leak. So again, the unit, wherever the controller is at, that unit, connected to that controller is going to display the air. But they have the option of the supervised controller. If that's in a, one location, it can be the supervisor and monitor those alerts also. And save you, I guess, I mean, if you have a really big house and you don't want to walk to each room and have a supervisor control, okay, to me, it's an added control, right? So I would probably just stick with the main controller, and I would walk to the area and to the controller and see what's going on with it. But there's an option there. Service checks. So again, back to that sensor. So if you have a problem with that sensor, then you need to do some testing on it. So measure the resistance between the terminals with the multimeter. So again, disconnect it from the board, right? We're doing continuity testing. Get it disconnected from the board when you're doing this. And it's pretty basic. Less than 10 ohms is going to be normal. Anything, if it's open or 10 ohms or more, that's abnormal. So after turning off the indoor unit breaker, leave it off for 5 minutes, measure the resistance vary between the sensor terminals. Like I say, I always disconnect any ohm testing, disconnect it from the board because it'll pick up it can pick up resistance through the board and throw the reading off. So expected life of the sensor is 15 to 17 years. That's pretty good. We will see, right? Those are one of those sayings, time will tell. If a leak is detected, air 1521 or FL is what you're going to see. We already kind of covered this. This is just giving some more information. This is what it would look like in the service manual, is what this is kind of showing here. So refrigerant leak. So test points. Okay, you look at this, right, and you determine what applies here. Is what you usually do here. I'm going to go with number 1. Does this apply to me? Number 2. Number 3, and then over here is the checkpoints and stuff. Turn off power, fan, check the indoor unit, partner refrigerant leaks, repair the part, etc. So again, service manual troubleshooting is what we're looking at here. All right, so if a leak is detected, make sure the fan in the outdoor unit stops. Check the display of the remote controller or the 7-segment LED on the outdoor unit board. See which indoor address has detected the air. Again, it depends where you're going when you show up. Outdoor unit first, or you go inside the home first. And if you see the controller and you see FL on it, then and the address, and you're there. So you're going to get the air in both locations. Turn off the power of the outdoor unit, the indoor unit, and the branch box. Once we know, we ventilated and everything's done at this point, the unit's just sitting there. Find the point where the refrigerant leak is. If a leak is detected, is it a refrigerant leak? So this is kind of just a flow chart we made. So is there a refrigerant leak? Yes or no? Let's say no. Let's go down here. Replace the refrigerant sensor in the indoor unit with the air. Well, replace or test, right? We just went through the testing process. I would probably test it first before just jumping and replacing it. And then from there, turn on the power of the outdoor unit, indoor unit, and branch box. power sequence, right, on the branch box systems. If everything's powered from the outdoor unit, then we power on the outdoor unit. But if it's separate power, branch box gets separate power from the outdoor unit, we always power the outdoor unit last. Let's go, if there is a refrigerant leak, yes, repair the refrigerant leak, obviously, replace the sensor, test it if needed, right? We test first and then replace as needed, and then turn power on, so. Warning, under no circumstances should you recover refrigerant being re-added to and re-add it to the system. Always use new refrigerant when recharging after recovery. Always a good idea. We just don't know, like I mentioned before, we've had cases of R410 being put in R454 units. So if you have something weird happening on a system that you come, an R454B system that's been installed for 6 months or whatever year, something like that, and it's doing some overheating and just weird pressures, operation, etc. That'd be another reason why you don't want to. I mean, you might want to pull and verify the charge like you're going to do, but unless you know 100% that's the correct refrigerant, don't put it back in the system. There's a whole bunch of good reasons why to use new charge. It's just you don't know the recovery tank you're pulling that out of. You don't know the condition of it. You get those recovery cylinders back, you don't know if they're clean. There's been cases where they're not clean, right? There's debris and all types of stuff, oil in the recovery cylinders. So unless you have a brand new recovery cylinder, which I'd still question that too, but I'd still do, always do a vacuum on it, but you just don't know condition of it. But pretty safe on that, on a new recovery cylinder, so. But again, yeah, just trying, that's always been something is, I get it with shortages of 454B. It's like, well, we're only allowed a bottle, right, a week, or I don't know whether the requirement is now. So it's like, we can't go out there and pull the charge and put new charge in every system. We'd be out of 454B. So it's a tough, we're in that transition, right? That's all I can say. Aaron, if you have anything to add to that scenario, feel free, but how is the 454B going right now as far as availability?
Not great. So the reality, everyone on the call, if you have a situation that you need R454, please get with your sales rep. It's really tough. We're probably going to have a little bit of a tough summer until probably early to mid-August. What I would say is, that's some of the advantages that David was talking about earlier with the MXE ported units and the P series being charged up for maximum length, and then the M series having some pretty long line lengths as well. A lot of these ported MXEs and the 1-to-1s, you won't need any refrigerant for. So that is a huge advantage. But if we've got something going on, please get with your local Gensco sales rep, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, Aaron, thanks for that. So let's move on here. So option on the smart multi, they have third-party alarms for party alarm or ventilation control. So smart multi only. This is what the device looks like, part number right there. And again, it's if you want to, have a device like this mounted, that you're not going to use the controller. You want to put this in another location in the home, right? That's what you're kind of looking at here to let the people in the home know there's an alarm, right? So, and this is based on MNet addressing here. So you set an address on that. So that tells me we got to get MNet wired to it. So that's got to come from the outdoor unit or the branch box. It's going to get an address number. Here's the addressing range, 151 to 200. Let's see if the address is 153. Okay, it's just telling you how to set the addressing for that. So again, you're going to need some MNet address or MNet wiring and connect that off the MNet is what it looks like. And then what you have to do if you're going to use that, actually, no, this is a different setup here. So this is an option. This is a pretty cool option here. So from the outdoor unit, we've always had this CN51 connector. And what it is we can get an output out of the board of the outdoor unit. You get this 5-pin harness. Here's the part number for it. And you take wires orange and green, in this case 3 and 5. And what this does is it outputs 12-volt DC power out of the connector on these wires. And then you would put our CN24 relay kit. Right, that's a Mitsubishi kit relay, 12-volt DC relay that gives us a dry set of contacts. So it would close these contacts, and then that would trigger whatever type of alarm you wanted to do. And this is just, again, an output from the outdoor unit to trigger an alarm to let someone know there's a a refrigerant leak, or there's an alarm for that setup. So again, it's just telling you through the dip switches on the outdoor unit, this is how you set it to on. LED may show 121, and then you push our SWP3 button. That's how you make the setting take effect. So it's, again, if it's something you want to do, reach out to us on the support side. We can talk you through this, but it's pretty common for us to do outputs out of our Mitsubishi systems for alarms or status. We do that too. So that's what it's showing here. Okay, guys, so that was probably one of the longer sections there. So questions, I don't see anything popping up yet. If there is, just ask them. Aaron will take care of those. This is the last section coming up, and we'll get through this. So basically, just proper refrigeration practices now. So there's some help on that, tools and some other things that give you some information on. So again, accessories, right? Just looking at evacuation hoses, valve core removers, thing right here. I mean, these are pretty nice for doing a faster vacuum, right? Speeds up vacuum evacuations here. Between this setup right here, removing the valve cores, getting the Schraders out of the way, and larger diameter hoses, getting up to the 3/8 or larger. You don't need a 20,000 CFM vacuum pump. You could run a 5 CFM vacuum pump and use this setup right here. Get this tool, get the Schrader out of the way, use bigger diameter hoses. It'll speed your vacuum up. It's not the CFM of the pumps. It's all this right here. There's a lot of videos on that show, and guys have done it and proved it. So there's some options going, you don't have to, the old school days of throwing gauges on it, and going gaugeless is a better option. Get a micron gauge on right here, teed off of this, and then you can be recovering or a vacuum right here, sorry, vacuum level. So vacuum here, and then you don't need a gauge set. So you're eliminating a lot of potential for leak, etc. So refrigerant hoses. So again, just some extra tools there that are talked about. Accessories. So refrigerant leak detector, right? We're into 454B. So make sure your tools are capable, that the leak detector is capable for that. Separate micron gauge, right? Not using the micron gauge built into your manifold set. Those get contaminated with oil, and then they don't read correctly. So if you can run, this setup here, and then get it off of this port here, then less oil contamination going, into that micron gauge and affecting that reading and stuff. So just ideas, like I say, what I've been seeing out there that's been working for people. 800 PSI regulator. We got to get to 600 PSI for our pressure testing. So you cannot get to 600 PSI if your regulator is rated for 600. You can get like 500, 550, it seems like. But so get that regulator. Here's the reverse thread adapters for the refrigerant recovery tanks and the refrigerant tanks. Reverse thread, right? So you're going to need some of those. Get more than one, right? So one's going to be, it'll be lost or missing, and you'll be stuck without it. So purge device for brazing, pressure testing, etc. So refrigerant recovery units, of course. So making sure they're rated for the 454B. This one's been out for a little while now, what, 3 years now, maybe 2, 3, and it was rated for 450 bar B already, so. Chance that tools that are 3 to 5 years old were already ready for it. Vacuum pumps, same thing. So again, a decent, CFM rated, I mean, between 3 and 9 is good enough on the CFM rating on those pumps, so. Gauges, right? A digital gauge said if they can be updated through a software, then you can do that option. So you don't have to buy a new set. But if you analog type, gauges here, then you would make sure you got the right ones for 454B, obviously. Some other options here, right? Your hoseless job link tools. I like these. So. Refrigerant safety. Refrigerant lines that contain A2L refrigerant must have a nitrogen sweep prior to making repairs. Yeah, that would make sense, right? If you're doing some brazing on doing a service repair on a system, it's 454B and you recover the refrigerant out of it. We always know there's some residual out, in the system. So doing a nitrogen sweep prior to doing any brazing on it is recommended. So ASHRAE requirements for pre-purge, so at least 5 volume changes at a rate of no less than 100 feet a minute. Then 1 to 3 PSI while brazing. So yeah, do that purge sweep, get a good rate, right? And that's what this chart is kind of showing down here, cubic feet per hour based on, your footage there. So that's where these gauges are nice, right? You can set them for that braze mode and it just trickles at 1 to 3 PSI on through the lines, right? That's all we need is to establish flow. So we just need a little bit of positive pressure to get that flow. We don't need 10, 20 PSI. Plus try brazing with that pressure anyway. But yeah, we just got to, these devices are nice for that trickle purge. And then just back to, pressure testing, it's the same as R410. And 600 PSI for 24 hours has always been our requirements. And again, this is just out of the service manual right here, right out of the service manual and just breaking it down and just going through exactly what they're saying out of the manual to give you an idea what they're saying. Pressurized to 602 PSI. So again, just to read the service manual if you want to read the notes in there, and then they give you a diagram on showing how to connect it up, etc. So I know you all know that. I'm just showing you though. This stuff has changed in there. They finally put some PSI ratings and in here and other stuff that would make sense to us here. So they were always using their millimeters, etc. and other factors there on those. So they Americanized the manuals a lot more. Evacuation, the same as R410. So 500 microns or less for 60 minutes. That's always been the requirement. So let me go back here because people laugh at this one here when, they're doing the certified trainings and it's like, okay, on a 1-to-1 system, I don't have 24 hours, right? That's a 4-hour job, a 1-day job. So if you can't do 600 PSI for 24 hours, do 600 PSI and leave it on as long as you can while you do other things on that job. But soap bubble solution on all the fittings at 600 PSI should show you the smallest leak possible. So that's a way around that 24-hour requirement. So, but we still like power on to the system for 12 hours right before startup. So that one's tough to get around. Heat the compressor with a heat gun. 500 microns or less for 60 minutes. Let's go back to that. So again, run it down below 500, 300, whatever, and then pumps off for 60 minutes and it's going to rise most likely to some number, but we don't want it to rise past 500. Triple evacuation. They're talking about the triple evac process. So highly recommended. I see that all the time now. They're really recommending that a lot more on everything. Recovery, so again, same as R410 systems. Just talking about this is right out of the install manual. Again, for either smart multi or ported units, the MXZ ported units, etc. So I was just going through the manuals trying to find what Mitsubishi says in the manual, because a lot of times, people want to say, what does Mitsubishi say and where's it at in the manual, right? Those are the questions we get. So I wanted to be able to find stuff right out of the manual and their wording. So that's what that's from. This was also in there. So choosing the outdoor unit location. R454B is heavier than air, as well as other refrigerants, so tends to accumulate at the base. R450 accumulates around the base. It may reach flammability concentration in case the room is small. To avoid ignition, maintain a safe working environment. So install, I'm just going to skip down here, put it in, install the unit in a place where at least one of the four sides is open and sufficient large space without depressions. So again, this is right out of the installation manual for the outdoor units, FYI. So NG, no good, I guess, is what we're getting at there, right? Which would make sense. But so we want to be open, right, on one end or two ends or three ends. So. All right, guys. That is it for that presentation. Do you have any questions about any of that? Let me see. I'm gonna see if I have any. Oh, so yeah, go ahead if you have questions, ask away in the chat. Let me go back to, I was gonna go to Mitsubishi Pro real quick.
And if you have a question you'd like to ask in person, just raise your hand and we'll allow you to talk.
But yeah, here's the website live, guys, right here. And again, here's the indoor units, obviously. And then as you go down, so see they're adding more. I don't remember seeing these outdoor units here. And then the categories down below. Accessories, parts, other resources, training. So, and then here I did see, oh yeah, here's the Diamond System Builder download from this website. I don't even know if it works. Let's see. Yeah, it does. So again, they're updating in this all the time. But yeah, I mean, up here, like if you click, let's go outdoor unit. And then what I've been finding when you click on that, this is where I've been using the search bar because it's bringing up, I mean, well, first of all, you can find your models right here. Brand, okay, I just want Mitsubishi, but in status, what I can do right here is launching soon, current, or phasing out. So I could, check these, clear those and just focus on current model if I wanted to. But what it does, like I say, it starts bringing up all these units and I don't want to search. So I just start typing in, okay, I'm looking for SUZ. And then it brings up, here's my start of my SUZ 454B units right here. So that's what I've been doing to get through this thing quicker. And like I say that, so outdoor units, actually, let me click on that, sorry. So I'm going to click on one of the units and then what it does is it brings, here's all the manuals over here. And I don't like this part of it here yet. So I hope they do this a little bit differently. But I noticed they put the submittals on top, which, okay, that's fine. I'm usually in service manuals and stuff. So I'm going down here looking for, all right, where's my service manual? So that's kind of how they're doing it. Engineering, here's install manuals and then service. So if I click on that, then I'm good to go. This is normal. This is what it looks like on my link drive right here. So I'm fine with that. It's just getting there through these manuals and stuff. I'm getting used to that, I guess. So yeah, I'm not signed in either. So you don't have to create an account. Controls and stuff, like I say, when you get that, then you got to clear this out. I know it's kind of annoying. I figure if you click this tab, it should clear your search out, but no. And not all the accessories or controls are in here either. I can't find the comfort app's not in here. They don't talk about it. So that's just some things I'm noticing on the website. But it's getting there, right? And then I always keep MLD right? Actually, let me go back here. So there's our old Myling Drive site, which is fine. So again, out of here, Mitsubishi Pro, and then click that and it links you to M Pro. So that's a way to get to it. FYI, if you didn't know, or save them as favorites, but it had a link out of here. So for Myling Drive, where did I see that? I'm gonna see if that works. Because like I say, I think this is gonna be the main site, and then they're gonna link back to the old site out of here is my guess. That's how they're gonna do it. Yeah, I don't see where it was at now, but anyway, so yeah, that, and then, so this site, and then I was gonna go to SVZ air handler. SVZ. Pick one of these. Install manuals that I'm looking for. So right here. And then I want to show you page 58 where I found that worksheet. So right here, that's the worksheet I was talking about, which I would print that 2-page worksheet out to work through your requirements. You know, your factory charge and everything. And once you know that, then you're using your basing your square footage on your zones, right? It's all right here for your crew, your team. So there's no questions, no calls needed, and you guys are, installing that product. So you can leave anytime you want to, guys. I was just showing you some extra stuff. Poking around in DSB here. So that's what I was trying to do. See if I can get it, drag it over. Here we go. That's what I was trying to do. So Diamond System Builder, right? And new. So here's what I was talking about right before, design build tab. And then making sure you're set here. Default refrigeration. So there's yeah, that's new right there. I didn't show that in the presentation. So there's a default tab right now. If you always strictly want to go 454, you can. And then this was the one we have marketing name. Sometimes it defaults to that, but we want the model. And then you're checked here. So those are what you want to do. And then you start building your smart multi from here. So again, yeah, we're going to do a training coming up. One of our quick hitters to go over this Diamond System Builder again, because you notice, look at, if you haven't been in here for a little while, look at all the new tabs up here and stuff. And making sure you're set right. And okay, M&P or city multi-indoor units. So there's just a lot of stuff there now. But as you build that, like I say, you're going to be flagged along the way. So there, I just picked that particular, actually, let me make a mistake here, properties. I want to pick the 454 unit. So we'll select that. So now here's my 454 units, right? I had to select the tab up there. So here's the 60. Let's go with that. And then let's just grab a branch box and throw it on here. It's already picking the model. So there's the new model. I don't have a choice, right? I can't make a mistake here. So that's why we want to use this program again. Okay, and then I start throwing indoor units on here, SVZ. It's going to pick the right model. Now I just got to pick my tonnage, right? 12, 18, 24, whatever. I'll pick a 24, but see how it's flagging me? Here's my area of conditioned space, area of installed indoor unit space. So I can't get past those unless I put something in there. So enter the total floor area of connected spaces served by the unit. Refer to the unit installation manual for additional guidelines. So see, that's where this program, if you did everything here, you'd be safe. Same thing with the branch box properties. It's asking me indoor unit location. So conditioned space or non-conditioned is what this would be, right? Habitable conditioned space, right? And then once I do that, it's asking me floor area and stuff in case this branch box is put inside the home, right? And it's not in unconditioned space type of scenario.